Hey guys, so let us quickly try to understand what's the difference between current method and temporal method and when we're supposed to use which method. So first of all, we need to understand the context. So whenever you come across these two words, temporal method versus the current method, the first thing that should pop into your head is that we are talking about a parent-subsidiary relationship here, okay? So there's one company, the parent company, that owns the other company, which is called the subsidiary. So you basically own more than 50% stake in that company, and you're basically the owner. And when you're the owner of another company, the financial statement of the parent company and the subsidiary are to be consolidated. Okay, so that is the context. And also, there are certain words that you need to know the meaning of. So, first is the local currency. Now, let us assume that a US company has a subsidiary in the UK. Now, the local currency would obviously be the pound because pound is the currency that's used in the UK. Then we have functional currency. So, functional currency is usually decided by the management, and the management has a lot of discretion over it. So, typically, functional currency is the currency in which you price your product and services. And, if your costs are denominated in that currency, if your price is denominated in that currency, then you would call it the functional currency. And the management can decide what the functional currency for the subsidiary will be. And finally, the reporting currency. So this should be very easy to understand. So if you are a US-based parent company, then obviously you would report all of your financial statements in the US dollar. So that would be your reporting currency, okay? So you need to know the context that when we say current method and temporal method, we are talking about parent-subsidiary relationship here. So one firm owns the other firm and the financial statements are to be consolidated, and you need to know the meaning of all these three terms that I just described. All right. Now the main question, when exactly should we use the current method and when should we use the temporal method? So this is a chart that could be useful to understand which method is to be used when, but I'll just tell you, just first of all, the basic logic. So what you need to remember is that when the functional currency and the reporting currency are the same, we use the temporal method, okay? So same functional currency, and reporting currency, temporal method. For example, there is a US company and they have a subsidiary that is in the UK, and they are also selling their stuff in the US dollar, okay? And they're paying their employees in the US dollar. So in that case, the functional currency and the reporting currency are the same, hence we use the temporal method. You also need to remember that we typically use a temporal method for subsidiaries that are well integrated with the parent. So you just need to remember, okay, temporal method, that means functional currency and reporting currency are the same, and the subsidiary is very well integrated with the parent. Now, when the functional currency and reporting currency are different, so DC, you can just remember like Washington, DC. So functional currency is different from the reporting currency. So D, we use C, means the current rate method, okay? So we typically use current rate method when the subsidiary is independent, okay? It's not very well integrated with the parent and it's quite independent. And that's exactly what this chart is trying to tell us as well. But if you guys find this chart to be a little bit complicated and unnecessary, then just remember these points. I think that the Washington DC acronym would be super useful, okay? So DC means functional, different from reporting, use current. So if you have a situation where the functional and the reporting are the same, then automatically you would know that, okay, I'm supposed to use the temporal method when both are same. Alrighty. Now, the third and final case is when the local, the functional, and the reporting currencies are all different, okay? If that's the case, then we first use the temporal method. I'm sorry, there is a typo here. So first of all, we use the temporal method to remeasure local currency to functional currency, and then use the current method to translate functional currency to reporting currency. So let me give you an example and then I'll end this video. So suppose there is a US-based parent company and they have a subsidiary in the UK, and those guys are selling in euro, okay? Now, the US company determines, the parent company determines that the functional currency is actually the UK pound, okay? So what you're gonna do in this case is you'll first use the temporal method, and you would remeasure or, translate the local currency to functional currency. So local currency, which is the pound, and okay, I think I kind of messed it up. So suppose that there's a US-based parent company and then they have a subsidiary in the UK and they're also selling in pound, but the US company determines that the functional currency is the euro. So what you would first do in this case is you would use the temporal method to remeasure or translate the local currency, which is the pound, into the functional currency, which is the euro. And then you would use the current rate method to translate the functional currency, which is the euro in this case, to the reporting currency, which is the US dollar, okay? And then they also talk about a case where we have hyperinflation, but I'm going to make a separate video on that. So I hope you guys understand when do we use the temporal method and when do we use the current rate method. And I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Hope this was useful. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.